Así arranca el programa del día de la fecha con Es Esto La Fábrica, esta sección en donde intentamos redefinir, repensar, volver a analizar todo lo que rodea la industria de la música, ¿no? Esta industria que hace poquito nada más de algunas, no sé, 10, 15 años, un poquito más capaz, pero precisabas de barcos, de containers, de trailers que lleven de un lado al otro del planeta Tierra obras artísticas, ya sea pinturas, libros o discos. Eso ha cambiado mucho en estas últimas épocas y por eso en esta sección hablamos con organizadores de festivales, con productores, con artistas, muchos artistas, obviamente, y músicos. Y hoy llega el momento de hablar con los amigos de TASTE SATANIC, de quien recién escuchamos un temazo llamado If You Know Me Now, de quien recomiendo mucho el video con imágenes de la banda Chicago, increíble video de esta hermosa banda, a quien vamos a saludar en este momento. Bueno, Raúl, saludalo nomás y arrancamos la entrevista nada más con los amigos de TASTE SATANIC.
Dale, perfecto, Manu. Hello, can you hear us?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, perfect. We are going to start the interview. I'm going to make a little translation. So, please tell us your full name, where are you from, and how old are you?
Steven Scavuzzo, Brooklyn, New York, 61.
Wow, I'm over 40, so everything is okay. Everything is okay. Okay, bueno,
61 años.
Sí, sí, genio.
Es un pibe.
Sí, you are like a young person. It's no problem with that.
You look very young, man.
Thank
Perfect.
you. Good genes.
Of course, always good genes. Bueno, le pregunté que me diga su nombre completo, de dónde es y cuántos años tiene. Me dijo que su nombre es Steven, es de Brooklyn, Nueva York y tiene 61 años. So, which is your first memory of you listening to music?
Oh my God, I'm gonna have to go back to the Beatles probably. I mean, they had broken up by the time I first listened, but I remember getting a cassette of all things of the Hey Jude record, and God, that was a great record. So I thought it was a good one to start with for sure.
Of course. And how old were you?
I want to say 12, 13.
Okay. And there was music in your home or nothing? The radio, maybe?
Yes, there was. My father was a big classical fan, so every Sunday morning we'd be treated and woken up bright and early with the sounds of Beethoven and Mozart, which, you know, I can appreciate now, but at the time when I was a teenager, I was pretty pissed off about it.
Of course. Bueno, le pregunté cuál fue su primer recuerdo escuchando música y dice que alrededor de los 12, los Beatles, o sea que estaban explotando los Beatles, que tenía un cassette con Hey Jude y aparte sonaba música en general en la casa, que el padre era un gran fanático de la música clásica y que, bueno, cuando él era chico detestaba porque todos los domingos ponían Beethoven, Bach, y es algo que ahora tiene un buen recuerdo de eso, pero cuando era chico no le gustaba mucho. And can you tell us which was your first instrument and which was the first song that you learned?
First instrument was piano, and the first song I wanted to learn from my teacher was Stairway to Heaven. I didn't realize at the time it was more of a guitar song. But I found the sheet music in a music store, and I asked him to teach me that. I think he smiled, probably set it aside, and said, "We'll get to that eventually." And
of course.
We never did.
Of course, it happens when someone is teaching you. It's like later, and never happens. Of course. Bueno, le pregunté cuál fue el primer instrumento que tuvo y cuál fue la primera canción que aprendió. Y dice que el piano fue su primer instrumento. Tenía una profesora y la primera canción que él quería aprender era Escaleras al Cielo de Zeppelin, y fue con su hoja a aprender, y la profesora le dijo, bueno, después en algún tiempo lo vamos a aprender, cosa que siempre sucede, que le decía, porque los profesores te dicen después y te terminan tirando solfeo, esas cosas que hay que aprender sí o sí. And can you tell us if there are any places to study music for free in your region?
That's a good question. There may be. I'm not aware of them specifically. I mean, Brooklyn's a big part of New York City, so I think if you search hard enough and you qualify for some sort of, whether it's an economic issue or whatever, I would imagine you could find places to study. But we have libraries, and we have, a lot of public presentations of things, so I would imagine it's out there.
Ok. Bueno, le pregunté si había algún lugar para aprender música gratis y dice que él está en Brooklyn, que Brooklyn es una ciudad muy, muy, muy grande y que probablemente haya cosas. Él específicamente no tiene el dato de ninguna ahora, pero como bueno, Brooklyn es muy grande, dice que hay librerías en donde se toca, hay un montón de lugares, o sea, estamos hablando de una ciudad gigante, así que si uno quiere contactarse con música lo tiene seguro y que si uno busca por ahí puede conseguir para algo para aprender música gratis. And can you tell us how was the first time that you play in public?
Wow, it was weirdly enough for our first show was at CBGB's of all places. This is not TASTE Satanic. This was earlier on another band I was in. But CBGB's used to have an audition night on Monday nights, and so you could just sign up in advance and go down, and you'd invite all your friends to come down. And so yeah, for a first live experience, that was pretty cool. I don't know if I appreciated it as much at the time, but looking back on it, I think that's a pretty good place to start.
Wow.
Estamos hablando de donde arrancaron los Ramones, ¿no?
Sí,
Estamos hablando del
for us
lugar.
is a dream that. For us is a dream.
Wow.
Bueno, ahí está la diferencia de vivir en Nueva York. I think that for Latin American people and European people, New York is like the place to play, ¿no? Rock and roll, punk, that kind of stuff. Wow. Le pregunté dónde fue que tocó la primera vez y me contestó el CBGB. Porque, bueno, ya lo vimos en un montón de documentales, de todo. El CBGB tenía auditions, noches de audiciones, en donde uno se podía anotar y tocar.
Los lunes.
Sí, maybe on Monday and Tuesdays. CBGB.
Yeah, that was audition night.
Wow. Bueno, como bueno decía, los lunes, los martes eran las noches de audición y él tuvo la posibilidad de tocar no con TASTE Satanic, no con esta banda, sino con una que tenía antes en el CBGB por primera vez. Un sueño para nosotros, Manu, un sueño. And can you tell us how did TASTE Satanic, the band, begin?
Well, I started the band, and it kind of grew out of an interest in post-rock. I was a big fan of Godspeed You Black Emperor and Mogwai, bands like that, Explosions in the Sky. Wanted to do something more orchestral and just something longer and and instrumental. But I was also listening to a lot of more stoner metal bands. I guess Sun, although that's more drone. And Sleep, Electric Wizard. I was listening to a lot of those bands. So I think I even though I was interested in the post-rock bands, I think that the stoner rock was a better fit for what I was doing. And so it started from there.
Wow. Bueno, le pregunté cómo había empezado la banda, sorry my English, TASTE Satanic, okay. Y bueno,
your English is better than my Spanish.
No, don't say that. No.
Que su español,
no, my Spanish it's horrible, man. You have to hear me speaking Spanish. Sí, no.
My Spanish is horrible.
No, porque Manu, always remember. Sorry for that, because I'm an Argentinian living in Spain, so the people in Spain is like, right. What are you saying always? No, boludo, como argentino.
Well, others be the judge of that.
The accent, my accent of Spanish is horrible.
Okay, it sounds good to me. But
perfect. Thank you. No, bueno. Le pregunté cómo había empezado la banda y él me dijo que él estaba muy involucrado en todo lo que era el post-rock, bandas como Godspeed, Mogwai, y también quería hacer cosas más largas e instrumentales, ¿no? Él estaba interesado en hacer algo más largo e instrumental, y ahí entra el stoner perfecto, bandas como Sleep, Sun, nombró un montón, y venía escuchando todo eso y quería armar una banda así, y ahí se formó esta banda. And can you tell us why you put that name?
There's a Flaming Lips record. I don't know if you're familiar with the Flaming Lips. The album is called Clouds Taste Metallic, and I've always been a big fan of Flaming Lips, and I always found the name of that record to be interesting. And when you name a band, you got to kind of think long term if you're going to do it long term. Sometimes people come up with band names and they think they're brilliant right away, and then after a year or so, they're like, "What was I thinking? That was probably not a great idea." So I really like the Clouds Taste Metallic name. I've followed it for years, but I just thought since it was a metal band, it should be a little more Satan-y.
Of course. Manu always say that. Vos decís siempre que tienen Manu always have problems with the names of the bands. No, o no, que no te...
yeah. They can be, they can be somewhat ridiculous. But, I played in enough bands that I was like, I wanted it to be somewhat clear that if you heard the name TASTE SATANIC, you could probably figure out that there was some sort of metal involved.
Of course. Manu hates... No, when you Google, like clouds, and you never find that. For example, television. It's like offers of television and that kind of thing.
Oh, very confusing. You got to be able to Google it and find it pretty quickly, for sure.
Va, Manu, ahí te dio la razón. I always fight with him about that, man. Tenés razón, Manu. Hay que aceptar.
I was pretty confident that no one else had thought of TASTE SATANIC, so I was comfortable.
No,
that
cool
was
name.
Pop up in a Google search.
Of course. Bueno, le pregunté por qué le habían puesto ese nombre a la banda y él me dijo que es un gran fanático de Flaming Lips, de la banda. Excelente banda, y hay un disco que se llama Clouds Taste Metallic. Y bueno, lo empezaron a nombrar así la banda, y él, algo que dijo muy importante, que si querés que la banda tenga como un desarrollo que dure bastante, tenés que conseguir un nombre que sea importante y que no lo quieras cambiar al año, ¿viste? Porque hay, como ya estábamos discutiendo con Manu siempre, hay nombres que al año ya no te gustan más. Y bueno, él encontró ese nombre y se quedaron con ese nombre. Steven, in 2014 you released To Sleep Beyond the Earth, the first record. How was the recording process?
It was pretty easy, it's the band members at that time were people that I had worked with, in a previous band. And, I think some people feel concerned about writing long songs, but I really felt like it was easier in a sense to just write one song that was essentially 45 minutes rather than coming up with, 10 songs that were 5 minutes long, and, got on a theme and I really felt like, it was simpler in a way that I hadn't experienced before. I think sometimes bands tend to overthink things, and I wanted this first record to be pretty simple and heavy, but not overly complicated, and I think we accomplished that.
Of course. And why? Bueno, le pregunté por el proceso de grabación del primer disco que sacaron en 2014 y dice que él tenía una banda formada en ese momento con gente con la que ya había tocado, así que entrar a un estudio le pareció suficientemente fácil y que él quería mantener las cosas simples, ¿no? Dice que hay veces que las bandas como que se matan pensando demasiado las cosas, y él entró al estudio con gente que ya conocía y el proceso fue bastante fácil. And why you want to make instrumental songs?
Part of it is just this feeling or experience in the past that when you have a singer in a band, and let's face it, most bands have singers, they create a much bigger impression in the music than all the other instruments put together. You can have 4 people in a band, a guitar, bass, drums, and a singer. But when you put on a record and you listen to that, the first thing you hear is usually a singer, and that's really what it creates, an outsized impression of your feeling of the band. So when that singer is great and awesome and can really sing and write great lyrics, it's incredible. But I've experienced in the past that a lot of bands that I will check out and listen to, and they can start out great and have great riffs and be awesome. Then all of a sudden the vocals come in and you're like, okay, well, this is kind of ruined it for me. And it doesn't matter how great the song is or how great the guitarist is or how great the band is. It just immediately kind of puts you off. So I really felt like there's no reason why you can't have an instrumental band. It doesn't have to be, if you can't create something interesting with your music on its own, then you need to try a little harder.
Of course, perfect. Perdón, Manu. Hago una pequeña traducción, sí. Bueno, le pregunté por qué decidió hacer canciones instrumentales. Y dice algo que es muy importante, que es verdad. O sea, cuando uno tiene un frontman, un cantante, la mayoría de las veces el cantante es como que es el que envuelve toda la ¿cómo se puede explicar? El taste, envuelve a la canción. Y hay muchas veces que el cantante te puede destrozar una muy buena canción o hacer letras muy malas, y te destroza toda la esencia del grupo también. Entonces él decidió directamente saquemos esa parte, o sea, la parte del frontman, así, del cantante que te puede tirar una banda muy para arriba o muy para abajo, deshagámosla y hagamos canciones instrumentales. Y lo que él dice también que está muy bueno es ¿por qué no? También, ¿por qué? Why not an instrumental band? It's perfect what you're saying. ¿Por qué no un instrumento? Si uno tiene la capacidad de crear cosas interesantes que sean instrumentales, listo, puff, palos de a la bolsa, muy bueno. Es verdad, no hay una razón por la que hay que tener un cantante, muy interesante. Decime, Mono.
No, preguntale si puede ser que lo instrumental también esté atado a sus escuchas de niño de música clásica.
Maybe you've been hearing classical music when you were young. Maybe of that?
Well, absolutely. That's interesting because I've really turned around about my feelings about long form songs and creating something without words. And I think it's actually I've used it to some extent for inspiration. But yeah, I see the band actually moving, not necessarily in a classical direction, but using some of the framework that classical music uses in order to create. I think it's inspirational, actually.
Of course, perfecto. Bueno, Manu le pregunto.
I don't want to say that about opera. Opera might be a little hard. I haven't gotten to opera yet, but for classical, I think I can get there.
Perfect. We completely understand. I think that we feel the same about that. Perfect. Bueno, Manu le preguntó si puede ser por los recuerdos que tiene él de la infancia de haber escuchado música clásica y dice que sí, que hay él siente como una inspiración muy grande en música clásica y que tiene la banda como una tendencia a ir para ese lado de no precisamente ópera, nos estamos riendo porque no ópera, pero sí cosas instrumentales, quizás la manera de hacer los acordes o de armar una canción que no necesariamente es una canción de 4x4, viste, así cuadradita, de hacer cosas largas y que dice, sí, eso tiene mucha inspiración de lo clásico. ¿Tenías alguna otra pregunta, Manu?
Sí,
Decime.
A lot of question. When you say I'm going to have a stoner band, what kind of sound did you want to find? I mind to amplifier, guitar, pedals.
Right. Well, I mean, I think everyone probably says the same thing. They always start with Black Sabbath and Led Zeppelin, So, yeah, obviously I had those records when I was young too, and so it's a strong starting point. And to be honest with you, not only is that music fun to listen to, but as a guitarist, it's really fun to play. Because it's simple, it's distorted, it can be loud, and for someone like myself, I don't consider myself technically skilled, but yet I can still turn up a loud, distorted guitar, throw a couple of notes together, and play something that I think is pretty cool. So as a starting point, that genre really worked for me. Whether you call it Black Sabbath, or you move up to bands like Sleep or Electric Wizard or all the bands that are doing this stuff now. There's something that's like a bedrock enjoyment element of playing and listening to. Wow. Now, I don't want to live there forever. I want to use that as a starting point and move on to other things. But I'm always happy with I was starting with a riff first and then going from there.
Of course.
And you have a big muff pedal.
You know what? My first distortion pedal was a big muff. I now when I got to the stoner thing, I wasn't really a big pedal person, and I liked the idea of being able to plug in a guitar straight into an amp, turn it up loud, kind of like AC/DC style of I'm just gonna plug it in. Now my bandmates tend to be a little more pedal oriented, so their influences started with me. So I've added a few things. Actually, I'm more of a Rat person now. I don't know if you're interested in the Rat pedal, but Rat distortion pedal. But Brian, the other guitar player, says I sound like a big muff, but I think I'm more of a Rat.
Okay, we are going to search. Tenemos que buscar Rat Pedal, Manu. Ya tiró un dato. Thanks for the information.
El Digitech y el Big Muff son como los tres pedales, así como medio también.
Perfecto. Sí, Manu is a big fan of the stoner music, so he's like.
Good for you.
And I am very big fan of. I don't know if you see live, and I don't know if you want to talk about another ones, but you say you live in Brooklyn. I love Beastie Boys. I love
Beastie Boys.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Do you hear it live? Do you want to see their shows?
So Beastie Boys. Well, let me try and not talk too much. Obviously, I have all their records. Obviously, I think Paul's Boutique is probably one of my top 10 records of all time. That record is consistently brilliant. I actually live a couple of blocks away from Adam Yao Park. You know, when he died, they named a park there after him in Brooklyn. I'm not too far from there in Brooklyn.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those groups where it's you feel like they're also pushing boundaries. You know, they did that first record, and everyone expected them to make the next record sound just like the first record, and they were like, we're going to go off and do our own thing, and made something 1,000 times more brilliant. And that first record was brilliant. So, I mean, there's definitely like a feeling like that. I saw them twice. I saw them maybe 3 times. I saw them once. We have a park in Brooklyn called McCarran Park, and there's a pool, and they got rid of the water. And I saw them like outdoors. I want to say this was after, it might have been after Check Your Head. Or was it after? There's the city one. So it was like the Ill Communication. It might have been right after Ill Communication.
Do you remember the year?
After
the year?
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, the year of the show.
Oh. Well, let me go to the first one. The first one I saw him at Roseland right after Paul's Boutique came out. So Paul's Boutique came out. I want to say
94.
94 was Paul's Boutique? No, what is earlier than that?
No?
Earlier.
No, 91.
91, yeah.
91.
So I saw them first time there in a small place right after Paul's Boutique came out.
Wow.
I saw them again at least 4 or 5 years later.
Wow.
I think it was after Ill Communication came out. That was more of an outdoor show. And the Tibetan tribute concert. They did a couple of shows where they did not a tribute, but it was a benefit concert for Tibet. And they had, and it was in a stadium also around here. And that was like the show with REM and Radiohead, and there was a bunch of other bands as well too. But they played that one. That was awesome. I remember that show too. So I've seen it about 4 times, I guess.
Wow. ¿Cómo se puede ir por las ramas, Mau? We can talk every day, all the day. Thanks. Wow.
So inspirational, that band.
Yeah.
And just not only musically, but the way they conducted themselves and the way they presented their albums and the way that they, did things on their own. That's like a template for, other bands to aspire to. Yeah,
of course.
And when they're moving forward.
Intelligent people, really intelligent people.
I always say, and I hope you can understand me because I know the great English, but I always say that the Beastie Boys, for me, they revolution the music like the Beatles in the 60s in the studio with the mix and with the samplers. You hear the music of today, and Beastie Boys, they done everything. It's incredible.
Oh my God!
The music of today, no sé, de reggaetón, ¿cómo se llama la música? No, the trap music, the rap music. Beastie Boys did everything. They are the fucking gods. I love them.
Absolutely. I agree with you 100%.
And the instrumental music of Beastie Boys, it's from another planet. And you have salsa, you have punk, you have jazz, you have blues, you have whatever you want. And they also rapping. Nice.
I know. There's so much there to be inspired by. But just as a concept of being able to push yourself as a band to kind of do what you want to do, and not be overly concerned about pressure of doing something that's going to be necessarily popular. And in the same sense, they were by following their own ideas and muses, they became even more popular. So I mean, I think that's inspirational. Aside from the brilliance of what they're doing, and they're so effing cool as well too, doing it at the same time. No cooler people in the world doing what they do at the same time.
Exactly. Hago una pequeña traducción, Manu. Bueno, le empezamos a preguntar, bueno, por todo lo que fue el proceso del disco también, y Manu le preguntó por el sonido, en el principio de cuando él decidió tener una banda stoner, cómo fue el tema del sonido, y que obviamente estaba diciendo Steven que todas las bandas quieren ser un poco Black Sabbath, un poco de Led Zeppelin. Manu le preguntó si tenía un Big Muff, dijo que sí, al principio que sí, y que Steven era un fanático de los pedales, tenía un montón de pedales, pero bueno, lo fue quitando de a poco, lo fue quitando. Todos los otros miembros de la banda sí tienen un montón de pedales, pero que en este momento él es más de enchufar y poner el volumen bien fuerte, y dice que lo interesante es poder tocar. Sigue repitiendo que hay un perro. There is a dog. Manu, es tu perro. Perfect.
Manu, light off.
Steven tiene un perro. Bueno, y que y así van armando el repertorio de la banda. Dice que uno de los ahora están experimentando mucho con el rat pedal, que fue un dato que nos pasó después. Manu ya lo conocía, después lo vamos a investigar un poco más, yo particularmente, y terminamos hablando por el sonido de los Beastie Boys. Manu le preguntó si fue una influencia, si él tuvo la oportunidad de escucharlo. Dijo que sí, que lo vio como 3-4 veces, sí, que tuvo la oportunidad de verlos al aire libre y también de ir al concierto del Tíbet, que bueno, había un montón de bandas como R.E.M., Beastie Boys, todo, que fue una verdadera locura, Lo que pasa es que viviendo en la región a donde está conectado con todo. You're connected with everything in New York, so it's really a pleasure to talk and to listen, no, to that experience.
Thank you.
No, of course. And can you tell us, in February of this year, you released Tales of Demonic Possession, no, your last album. How was the composition process of that album?
The record right before that was a covers record. It was called Cloud Covered, and you were actually playing one of the songs from it right before. So I think we really kind of felt like we wanted to, after that record, we wanted to kind of get back to something more long form. We started writing, and then the pandemic happened, and actually gave us a lot more time to write and to create, and actually more time to think about bigger ideas and making something. I mean, we had done a double record before with the Glitter record, Glitter of Infinite Hell. So we wanted to do another one. We actually considered doing a triple record, but it turned out to be a little bit overly ambitious because it's a lot of time of creating and recording. But we wanted to do, we had the time to write, we had the time to think big, and we spent that time working on it. And there's a lot going on that record. there's a lot going on. We all decided to be very ambitious about it, and I think it turned out the way that we wanted it to turn out. But again, I think having all that extra free time made it easier to go bigger and create bigger.
Of course. And do you have a studio, a rehearsal place? Where do you play for the composition time?
We have a rehearsal place in Brooklyn, so we tend to times we write at home, but then we come in and the band works together, as far as formulating the songs and in the old days it was I was more of the person that wanted the 20-minute songs. Everyone was happy to do it, but felt it was kind of a new concept. Now we're at the point where the rest of the band is like, it's hard to rein them in. It's like we start getting past 20 minutes, and I keep saying, look, you can only put 20 minutes on a side of vinyl, or 22 if you're really going to stretch it. And they're now so ambitious about creating longer songs that it's like, we got to kind of try and rein in each song a little bit. Although I suppose we could just try and create one really long song. But that was now we're at the point where the long form songs feel necessary.
of course, buenísimo. Tiene una, I think that you have a level of freedom in your music that is really interesting. But I'm going to make a little translation. Le pregunté por el último disco, sacaron un disco en febrero, cómo fue el proceso de composición, y dijo, bueno, que habían hecho el disco anterior, era un disco de covers, y para este disco, justamente, por eso le pregunté, lo agarraron en época de pandemia. Y dice que tenían un montón de tiempo para pensar y para hacer cosas durante la pandemia, así que ellos ya habían sacado un disco doble, pensaban en sacar un triple, pero dijeron, bueno, es demasiado esto, así que bueno, se fueron quedando con lo que fueron armando, y dice, pero qué bueno que es un momento de la banda igualmente de canciones largas, que quieren tener la libertad para hacer canciones largas. Dice que hay zapadas, hay cosas de más de 22 minutos, bueno, pero que tratan de achicar un poquito porque no entran en un vinilo, 22 minutos, pero que están en un momento más que nada de hacer canciones propias, largas, y aparte tienen un lugar a donde pueden ensayar, así que cada uno escribe en la casa, se van al ensayo y arman entre todos las canciones. Decime,
Raulo, preguntale si a la hora de componer usa, no sé, Ableton y esas nuevas herramientas que ayudan a componer, o es toda la antigua.
No, Manu wants to know when you're in the composition progress, you use new tools like Ableton or that kind of things, or you play?
We start with playing, but we're trying to expand our sound every time. Not only what we do in the studio, but even everything we write, we've got to be able to play live. So everything starts with that. Like I said, Brian, who also plays guitar, is a big pedal person, so he's constantly experimenting with sound like that. I'm always trying to look for ways to kind of expand, the way I approach the guitar, even though I prefer things so simple. But when we get into the studio, there's keyboards on there that you may not hear. We're always interested in percussion. For some reason, Greg, the drummer, has this preoccupation with wind chimes. Don't know why, but he seems to love wind chimes. Maybe he thinks we're Rush, but for some reason, he's got to have them on every record. So we're trying to get some other percussion ideas in there as well too. But at this point now, there's nothing that we're not willing to explore, either at least live or certainly in the studio.
Wow. No, es que tienen una libertad, Manu, es todo que sí, todo suma, es muy bueno eso. Manu le preguntó por si usaban nuevas tecnologías para en el momento de componer, y dice que lo que me pareció súper interesante es que ellos tratan de armar canciones que puedan tocarse en vivo. Eso me parece que es la base, lo fundamental de ellos, pero que siempre están en la búsqueda de expandir sonido. Bueno, Brian, el otro guitarrista, es un pedal guy, dijo que es una persona con muchos pedales, y también que le da mucha pelota a la percusión. Dice que el baterista le tiró un palazo al baterista, que trata de ser súper técnico porque le gusta mucho Rush, pero que bueno, que van buscando músicos, y a la hora de meterse en el estudio sí tienen por ahí otros músicos, y meten teclado, cosas que no están tan al frente, pero que sí que hay como muchas capas de sonido que uno va escuchando y las puede ir interpretando. Manu, le voy a preguntar, Steven, do you feel that the interpretation that people makes of the band's music is similar of what you're trying to say?
I think that people and the community by and large has been really supportive of what we're doing. From day one, I think that the people who are fans, people who are fans of music, but also fans of doom and stoner, things like that, have a really open mind about music in general, and are willing to accept, things that may not be typical of what they normally listen to. So far, everyone's been very supportive. It's a challenge. It's a challenge for the listener to listen to a 20-minute song without vocals. I have trouble sometimes, I'll have to do my laundry or fold clothes while I'm occasionally sometimes. But I think that people who love music and really appreciate music are willing to, appreciate, something that may be necessarily somewhat out of their comfort zone, and be willing to try different things. And I think we've tried to give the listeners and people in the community more credit than I think that some people who just want to sell records give credit to people.
Espectacular lo que acaba de decir, es espectacular.
Sí.
We really like that. Hago una pequeña traducción. Bueno, yo le pregunté la interpretación que tiene el público de sus canciones y dice que el público stoner, que viene del doom, del stoner, es gente con una cabeza muy amplia, que open mind, ¿viste? O sea que pueden escuchar cualquier cosa. Y dice que es un challenge, es como un desafío para la gente también, escuchar canciones de 20 minutos quizás o canciones largas, y que el público del stoner, del doom, dice también que ellos el público también como que van saliendo de su zona de confort. Eso me pareció buenísimo, y están abiertos a escuchar cosas nuevas todo el tiempo, y lo que terminó diciendo que es excelente, que ellos le dan más crédito a su público que el nada más ser el de comprar canciones. Dice que comprar canciones, bueno, lo hace todo el mundo, que es algo normal, y que ellos le dan un crédito extra a su público por escucharlos. Muy bueno lo que acaba de decir. We really like what you're saying. Manu.
Cool.
No, decirle que tanto la música que él defiende como la que toca me hace acordar mucho a Poseidótica. Recomendale Poseidótica, por favor. Y ya vayamos cerrando, que le robamos como 40 minutos al brother. Es un capo este chabón. Y agradecele todo.
Bah, man. Sorry for the time, but we really like to speak with you. We can be all live talking. Do you know any bands from Argentina?
I do not actually. I mean, I specifically from Argentina. Do you have any suggestions?
Yeah. We are going to text you and send some music from Argentina, stoner music. In Buenos Aires, there are many bands of stoner, and maybe you can contact some record labels from Argentina. But
that would be great.
See, I think that they will like Manu, los record labels.
We have a band they call Los Natas. They are really friends with the Queen of the Stone Age, and they play in LA a lot. The drummer of Los Natas today have a band who called Poseidótica. It's instrumental stoner, and I think you really like that.
Sí, después le vamos.
Please send the band names. I'd love to.
No, yes, of course, of course.
Would be awesome.
And the record label to make contact. I think that you will like it. No, it's because we have a lot of things in our head. Thanks. Just to close the interview, can you tell us something about the future plans of the band?
Well, we're in the process of finishing up a new record.
Wow.
So it's only going to be a single this time. We're thinking about, we were in Europe a couple of weeks ago, and we did some recording in Berlin. Basically, I to some extent, basically call it a live album, which we're thinking about putting out later on this year. We're also thinking about some music for the holidays. So that's another idea we're kicking around as well too. So we've always got something coming up.
Wow.
Cerralo.
No, decime.
Preguntale si tiene. You have a t-shirt with Sonny and Cher?
This shirt I'm wearing now? No,
Yes.
it's ABBA.
ABBA. I have my dad every time.
We were just in Sweden.
You are in Sweden? Really?
We were in Sweden. We played a bunch of shows in Europe, and the last show we played was in Sweden. And so I had to visit the ABBA Museum.
Of course.
And I was like, wow, this shirt is awesome. I mean, I love ABBA, but I mean, the shirt too was like, I got to get the shirt.
I have a cover band here in Spain, and I play Waterloo.
Oh, that song is great. I love that song. I mean, it's not as good as Dancing Queen, but it's a good song. It's a pretty
Waterloo.
good song.
Sí. Vengo de ensayar con los españoles y tocamos Waterloo recién. And how do you feel? Bueno, le pregunté por los planes futuros. Dice que siempre tienen planes futuros. Van a sacar un nuevo disco con un par de singles también, y tuvieron la oportunidad de grabar unas sesiones en vivo en Berlín, así que eso probablemente lo saquen también para el verano, o bueno, van a hacer música para el verano también. Mandé un chiste, y que siempre están en el proceso de hacer cosas, están continuamente a hacer cosas. How do you feel about the European public?
Everyone was great. I mean, it was great to meet people that you see only on social media, and then finally get to meet them face to face.
Perfect.
It was really interesting. Every show that we played, people were really appreciative. and not only playing the show, but being able to, after the show, talk to people, have a beer with them, and talk to them for a while. It was a great experience. I want to go back real soon.
Only one beer, no? Only one beer.
We're on tour. We don't have to drive anywhere, so
okay.
we had plenty of beers.
Sí, bueno, le pregunté por el público europeo, dice que era maravilloso y también la experiencia de poder bajarse del escenario e interactuar la pasaron muy bien. Manu, si no tenés ninguna otra pregunta, estaríamos hablando hasta pasado mañana. Steven, really thanks for your time, for your support, and we are going to play, to finish, we are going to play Violence Part 2. Can you say something about that song?
Oh wow, man! That at the time we thought this was going to be our hit song, but I think we still to this day play it live. I think it's catchy, and it's relatively short, which is nice too. So I'm really proud of this song. I think it's like, you know, and there's actually a video to it with a lot of motorcycles, which is also cool as well. To check that out sometime. But I love that song.
Perfect.
Steven, when you talk about your band, your face change. You look so happy, and I love that, man.
Yes.
Thank you.
Love that.
Yes.
Thank you. I love music. I love playing music. I love talking about music. So, you know, that always makes me happy.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Steven. See you. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much for having me. I really appreciate it. Take care, guys. Bye. Nice. Hold on. Thanks, man.